think if you're outside the world of sports, you have this sense that the boycott yesterday kind of came out of nowhere, but that's not true. I mean, there's a long history going back to Muhammad Ali as a conscientious objector of the Vietnam War, and really turning up the volume of their protests since Colin Kaepernick took a knee and paid a price for it. But talk about this moment right now. Tell me what's happening right now on these teams.
Well, this is a moment where you're seeing athletes as a whole just say that enough is enough. And I think that right now, you know, what a lot of people don't understand is that they see athletes on TV. They see athletes like LeBron and, you know, everyone, they're playing, they're in their sport, they're in their craft. But they don't understand that they're fathers. They don't understand that they have these talks with their children every single time something like this happens. You showed Robert Horry earlier, and, you know, I can relate to everything that he said as a father. Every single time something like this happens, I have talks with my children. You know, my son is 15, just turned 15, and I'm terrified for him. Every time something like this happens, I literally can't sleep for a few days. And I'm gone over the past what to do when he's stopped by the police and what he can't do, and you know he's going to be driving in a year, and that frightens me in itself. So those are the conversations, the things that go through athletes' minds. That for some reason mainstream America thinks that we're in this protective bubble where these things don't really bother us or affect us, but that just isn't true.
What do you think about Doc Rivers' statements and LeBron's tweet yesterday? F this, enough is enough. I mean, do you think that this will represent a next level? I don't want to use the word breakthrough because that seems like an artificial measure, but they have the country's attention, the NBA does right now, by postponing the games in the playoff, by being in the bubble, by being together, and by having the country sort of really feeling this vacuum at the highest levels of the federal government.
Well, it's tough because, you know, you would think that the country would have taken notice as a whole a long time ago. You know, this isn't the first case of police brutality, the first case of a black man being shot, you know, that's caught on video. But I think that what makes this different was that the entire NBA had a work stoppage, had a boycott, and now are voicing that they want change and they want it now. So now it depends on where you go from here, because there's a lot of different directions they can go.
Yeah.
I wrote a column for The Guardian, and I was urging for them to push the NBA CEOs, I don't call them owners for obvious reasons, but NBA CEOs to really use their power and their influence to be able to push for laws to be changed in the cities where their teams are. So, for instance, Mark Cuban in Dallas, he has a lot of power and a lot of political clout in Dallas. So he could even, you know, put pressure on the city to be able to say, okay, if the Dallas Police Department doesn't adopt some of these sensible police reform, these different protocols, that we're going to withhold funding from you. And I bet you would see change happen immediately. And that's what I want to see. Take that next step, because, you know, the NBA, these are billionaires. We're talking about, you know, Mickey Harrison in Miami. We're talking about, you know, Ted Leonsis in D.C. These are billionaires, and they have power to be able to really push for change. It's different for millionaires. So millionaire NBA players, and they're doing a terrific job of letting their voices be heard, letting their objections be heard. But I really want to see the next level, because I want change to actually happen.
It's a perfect point, because these are the same billionaire owners who get cities and towns that can't fix their bridges or schools to build them beautiful stadiums. So that's a brilliant point. I want to ask you about LeBron James' effort to we spent a lot of time talking about the effort to really impact voter suppression and to make it easier for people to vote, to turn some of these empty arenas, since everyone's playing in Orlando in the bubble, into giant voting precincts. Is there an opportunity to draw more attention to that, to engage more players and teams in that effort?
Oh, definitely. I mean, what LeBron is doing is really ramping up the voting effort is phenomenal. I mean, the way that he is, you know, because we talk about him in particular, the way that he is using his platform is on the level of the athlete activists that we've seen in the past. And I think that you have somebody at the top of their craft, using their voice, using their platform, and pushing people for actual change. I saw a quote where he said, just a few days ago, that 50% of his mind is on the playoffs, and the other 50% is on how he can help his black people. And that's powerful. That's a powerful statement to make. So yes, what he's doing also is making it easier for other players to be able to stand up. If you remember, a little bit of a period of time in the 90s, things were a little bit quiet. Things were a little bit different. The whole climate of the NBA was different. Mm-hmm. But now you have the top player who is speaking out. The top player saying he's not going to shut up and dribble, like Laura Ingraham told him to do. He's gonna speak out. He's gonna talk about politics. He's gonna come back to Trump. He's gonna talk about voter suppression. He's gonna talk about police killings of unarmed black men and women. He's going to do everything and be that Muhammad Ali type of mouthpiece in this day and age. And it's inspiring for all other athletes who are really following behind him. So I think it's a beautiful thing.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.